Hey, welcome back to the Give Me Liberty podcast of the Standing for Freedom Center at Liberty University. We're right here on the grounds of CPAC 2023. We're joined by our friends, John Solomon and Amanda Head. Just the news, not noise,
That's
right?
us.
Real America's voice.
Yes.
Welcome.
Good to be with you, Ryan. I always
Yeah.
love doing this every year when we get together.
I love it too. You're always the one who is breaking some great news, and well, I say not always good news.
Yeah, but
important news,
Yeah.
news that we need to be aware of. And by the way, your role is so important because these days there's so much misinformation and so much media bias, especially when corporate money gets into that, and then also when intelligence gets into that. What's going on?
Listen, we've been working on this story for about 6 months on our show. Man and I have been working, digging every day. We've had the Capitol Police Chief on, many of the whistleblowers on. We have been told time and again that the January 6th attack was a preventable attack, that there was significant intelligence, and the whistleblowers gave us documents. We've been writing yesterday a watershed moment in Washington. The Government Accountability Office came in and said there were 10 federal agencies, all who had intelligence that there was going to be violence. None of them processed it or prepared the Capitol for what happened. That means we sent hundreds of police officers into harm's way, though we knew there was going to be trouble, and they went in unaware.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
Okay. So what implications does that have then? I mean, you think about the last 2 years, right? Everything from election integrity, right, to our Department of Justice, right, rule of law in this country. What implications does this have? I mean, most Americans, when they're watching this, they're horrified. You know, can we really trust our government right now? And I'm not trying to cast any more shade than what has already been done, but we need to have the information.
Amanda has a great answer to this. I watch her on the TV show when we get this question. Amanda, you've seen this from afar, I think, which is really helpful because we're in the fog of war. What are the things that people say to us now that really resonate with you?
Yeah, I mean, I hate to say it, but the implications on the negative side, my concern is that the American people have been so beat down as far as the distrust of their government. We see it in every arena. Obviously, yes, the intelligence community, the FBI, the DOJ, but the more you hear about scandal in Congress, the more you hear about cabinet secretaries who have like sleazy relationships, and obviously the connection between the Bidens and Ukraine and the Bidens and China. And my concern is that the implication is that next year, you're going to have people who don't show up to vote. And especially with the distrust of elections right now and the fact that prior to 2022, there were still a lot of old antiquated election laws that were not changed and were not fixed and were not codified as the Constitution would suggest as far as state legislatures having control of that. Because of that distrust and because of the river of knowledge and the river of stories that come from folks like John Solomon, to be completely frank, and I hate to be a Debbie Downer, my concern is that people won't show up and vote because they feel like it doesn't matter.
You know, I thought about this in the last election cycle, certainly in Georgia, not just the one in 2022,
Right.
but also in 2020.
Absolutely.
Right. So in the middle of all this, you know, that we were reeling kind of from the 2020 election, and there was a lot of those kind of, I hate to say it like this, but like show attorneys that would go out there and do various things. And I had many friends involved in this fight, but I was my greatest fear was that people were going to go home and think, oh, you know, I don't really need to vote because I can't trust the process. There's a difference between red pilling people and black pilling them. Yeah. We don't want to black pill people to the point, beyond the point of return where they say, well, this is unsalvageable. Why even be involved?
There was an anecdote, and I agree totally with Amanda about elections. There was an anecdote on our show about a month ago. A federal law enforcement official came out and said, we had a star witness. He was an FBI agent. Greatest record ever, absolute expert. At the end of the case, they're going to bring him on to close things. Prosecutor said, I can't put you on. The jury doesn't trust the FBI anymore. That is a real problem if we can't convict bad people because people have lost faith in the FBI.
Yeah, and we're seeing that, I mean, just more recently with this grand jury, right? And you're seeing the people wanted to basically depose the president just to confront him and make a total mockery, right, of the rule of law and of due process.
Instead of doing 10 minutes of justice, she took 5 minutes of fame, and she corrupted the entire judicial system by doing what she did.
Well, and even on the micro level this morning, we saw the verdict come down for Alec Murdaugh. And the judge even felt compelled to say, you know, we saw a lot of besmirching taking place. smearing of reputations in law enforcement, because there were some people who looked the other way because of the power and the money of someone like Alec Murdaugh. Right. And so even on a micro level in culture, you see that happen, and that has a macro effect.
Yes. We're at Liberty University, the Standing for Freedom Center. Obviously, faith is a part of every conversation, and we always are looking with hope. Like, there's lots of reasons, right, to say, oh my gosh, the sky is falling, the world is ending, but we have to remember Christ is on his throne. Well, all I want to kind of close in is what gives you guys hope about America and its future in spite of the darkness we're seeing?
When I used to look at the dollar bill and it said one nation under God, I realized that we were founded on the principles of faith. And every time our country's gotten astray, and we've gotten astray many times, we've had a lot of strife in our country, we always seem to come back to the Constitution and our faith. I think that moment is happening. That tipping point is happening. People are waking up and saying, you're not going to do that to my children. You're not going to do that to my country. You're not going to do that to my checkbook. And I think that the grassroots that are here and all across this country are beginning to wage a combat for their country. They're actually in it to win it. And they're going to take the country back inch by inch, yard by yard.
Yeah, and like you said, the king has not moved 1 millimeter off the throne. Yeah. He is the same yesterday, today, and forever. I always caution faith people within our political movement. The Bible also teaches that death and life is in the power of the tongue, and we have to use our tongues wisely. They can set things ablaze, they can create destruction, but they can also uplift and encourage people. And I think that for our side, look, America is known for its grit. That has been our number one hallmark when it comes to battle going in ever since the beginning of our great battle in the 1760s going into the 70s. So I would just say that as long as our side doesn't give up, we're never going to lose.
Amen. And the church is not going anywhere.
That's right.
God forbid we ever have a post-American church, but we'll never have a post-church America. The church is here to stay.
Amen.
So I really appreciate that, Amanda. Thank you for joining us. And John, as always,
Great
it's
honor
a pleasure.
to be with you. Thanks, Ryan.